So we have seen as a EA team what's the responsibilities and how they're able to help the business. But now let's take a little more deeper dive on to the architecture roles. There are, in general, there are three type of architecture architects in a company. Well, that is depending on the size of the company. If the small size of companies, then they may not have all these three type of roles. And if the company is very big, they may have six variations of this kind of architect's role. They can be data architect, security architect, system architects, application architect. So there can be multiple architect roles. But in a summary, you can look at this as three type of architects. The enterprise architect is having a strategic focus, and they maintain a high focus because that is what they maintain this top-down view of the business. What are the business needs? How it's running? What are the business processes? In fact, they even get consulted for a business architecture to serve a customer needs or to business needs. How do we maintain the process? So they are consulted much more on a business level as well. And they do have a technology knowledge in terms of a breadth of what are the possible technologies out there in the industry, what are the technologies and applications out there inside the company. So they maintain this breadth of technologies focus and knowledge, and they maintain the strategic focus high level. Now, technical architects are more on technology, which are more deeper. Maybe they're SAP technical architect or Salesforce technical architect, or maybe they can have a customer domain of a specific domain of customer technical architect or supplier technical architect, or network technical architect. So there can be multiple roles, but they're focused on a specific technical aspect of the domains. And solution architect is kind of in the middle. They do have some kind of a strategy focus, and they maintain the breadth and depth as well. So solution architects also important. But let's say if there's a new project is coming, an enterprise architect would be involved more initially to ensure the strategic fit and what kind of technology choice is made. But how those technologies are going to be designed is more on solution architect. Technical architect is more on how they're going to build this solution, how they're going to connect with each other. So more detail level. So I hope this gives you high level what are the possible architecture roles. Now let's look at enterprise architect roles and responsibilities. We have seen the team functions. Some of them are going to be repetitive here, but I just want to make sure this here we convey all the roles and responsibilities of enterprise architecture. Yes, top-down view of the organization from a business point of view, and helps to define IT strategy and aligns with the business strategy, and streamlines the application landscape for optimal performance and decommissions redundancies, and bridges governance to management, because we have seen governance is to have this alignment and ensure the value is delivered to the business. And enterprise architecture is the one who has a technical knowledge and also business acumen, and they can bridge this knowledge, this gap of governance to management. And they can define part of governance team. They can define guardrails and with the technical standards, the guidelines and templates. And considered security is an essential in all solutions because they are enterprise architects and they have this top view and breadth of technology knowledge. They understand the essence of security. So they pose this question of, okay, how are we taking care of security if for any solutions? Translates business language into technical aspects because they need to have a business acumen so they can discuss with the business their needs and they can convert into technical aspects so that the solution architects can go and build the solution. And it brings common understanding with the baseline and target architecture diagrams. Yes, they can build the diagrams. They can start the layers of the architecture diagram, either in a block diagram or in a physical diagram or logical diagrams. They can draw these diagrams and explain how they are fitting with each other, how the data is flowing, and how the users are going to communicate. But by drawing these diagrams, they can prepare where we are as a baseline, where we want to go, which is a target architecture diagram, and then solution architects can go and implement that. So they can get this common understanding by showing these architecture diagrams. And they involve in a project design phase and maintains oversight on project executions. They don't involve too much into execution part of it, but primarily on the design of the phase of the project, and keeps up with technology trends and best practices. They need to have this breadth of knowledge of technologies, what is outside, what's going on with technology, how they are helping the business. So when the business asks this question, they will be able to answer them. Even though if they don't have answers, they have to research and they have to find the appropriate source and help the business to make a proper decision. Creates and maintains artifacts to preserve and share learning with the teams. Um, they focus on how do we capture the information, the best practices, our guidelines, and learnings from the projects, and so they can maintain this repository of the learnings and shares with their colleagues in the enterprise architecture team, or even with the technical teams when they need. And then finally, understands the data interdependencies across the IT landscape, and they can help to avoid the risks. Because if a business is making a decision which is not true, maybe which is modified, or they're not getting the right information, then they make wrong decisions. So enterprise architecture having this view of the what is the source of the truth, where is the real source is there, how the data is moved from multiple layers, maybe where the data is modified, which is not real truth. So they can ensure or they can help to provide this quality data to the business leaders so they can make a proper decisions because they maintain this top-down view and breadth of technological focus, and they know how the data is flowing from which layer to what function. Now, how do they do all these things? So there are two popular frameworks, TOGAF framework, which is from Open Group, and Zachman framework. We're not going to go through these details, but these frameworks helps for them to, for enterprise architects to look at if there is a new request comes, how do they approach? How do they see the fit? They can see, start with a vision and business architecture, and then information system architecture, and then technology architecture. And if in case of Zachman, you can see the scope, business model, logical and physical. So they can even have these questions of what, how, where, who, when, why. But if someone is passionate to pursue enterprise architecture career, they need to have at least one of this framework mastered properly. So now let's spin this into application. So far we spoke some of aspects of if there's a new request comes, enterprise architects have to ask these questions and they have to ensure the strategic fit. Now let's look at how do they optimize existing application portfolio. So you're looking at a screen. What you're seeing is the blue bars, blue rectangles are capabilities. For example, if you look at the right side, HR is a capability for a business because they're able to manage the employees, hiring and retaining. So how do they do that? They have maybe second level of capabilities called employee lifecycle management, recruiting, training and skills enhancements, workforce management. Okay, so how are these capabilities are provided by technical systems? So they have this payroll system, maybe HR admin system. There are maybe the executive track HR plan. So there may be different applications. So now what you're seeing here is a view of capabilities mapped to applications. Now, what is this color? Green, yellow, red. You can see green says it is supported by the vendor. So there is no risk there. And yellow means it is phased out. It is in phasing out mode. So vendor may be supporting, or maybe we are keeping it, but we need to phase it out because of either strategic fit needs or vendor support needs. And the red means it is not supported anymore. So when if a company has like thousands of applications, then how do they maintain this high-level view of all these applications? Not only just in this dimension, when you look at these applications, you can have multiple dimensions to look at these 1,000, 2,000 applications in a company. We have seen capability mapping. Now they can be vendor support. Is vendor supporting or not? They can see from a strategic fit angle. Our strategy is to have more SAP applications because SAP is our strategic vendor. Then they can look at strategic fit. That means future needs aspect. And they can even have each application roadmap. So how are we going to manage this application after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year? Are we going to keep that, or do we need to do maintenance of this thing? So what is the life cycle of this application? And then what data is used in this application? Is there any criticality of this application because it uses a lot of sensitive data? Or if you are, how do you rate this application in terms of criticality for business? Saying that if business cannot survive if this application goes down. So if you give this criticality scoring, then you can say that, oh, okay, I need to make sure there is a proper redundancy and high availability for that application. So you need to have a criticality scoring as well. And then cost to maintain. So you have all these applications, which applications taking more cost. So so when you are analyzing these thousands or 2,000 application for a company, decent sized company, you need to have all these dimensions to analyze it. And again, these applications can be your desktop applications or your on-premise enterprise applications, or it can be a SaaS web-based applications. But ultimately, company is paying money, so there is a need to maintain this application lifecycle and optimize the usage of this application so the duplication redundancies are not there. So how do we track all these applications? There are there are there is application for that, which is there is application portfolio management app, and there are many vendors who provide this application. And here I want to introduce two other things here. Gartner Magic Quadrant, Forrester Wave. Gartner and Forrester are top two research companies, especially in the IT industry, and they do a lot of researching and consulting, and they write research papers and they publish it, and they analyze vendors and they take the feedback from the customers. And then every year they release this research report. In a summary, Gartner gives you Magic Quadrant, and you can see who are the leaders in this domain of EA application management. You can see biz design, evolution are in the leaders quadrant. And there is a challengers, and there is a visionaries, and then there is a niche players. So if someone wants to implement enterprise architecture first time and they want to maintain it properly, they need to have a right application for that. So that application is designed by looking at Gartner Magic Quadrant, or Forrester Wave is another way of looking at who are leaders and strong performers, and contenders and challengers. So with that, to summarize enterprise architecture, let's say if a company has proper EA team established and matured, how do they look like? There is a strong alignment of IT and business strategy, and there is a IT agility, and which leads to business agility so that it can react to the changes, and optimization of IT assets, resources, and capabilities, and consolidated vendors. Instead of having hundreds of vendors, there may be a manageable vendor size, and no duplicated and unused applications in the portfolio, and optimized application integration for data exchange, because no application can sit isolated, so they need to exchange data with something one way or other way. And then minimize risk, complexity, and technical debt. Technical debt is another concept where sometimes we may have to say, let's put the solution into production and then we will deal with this later. So then later, what the dealing is becomes a debt. So that means the complexity is there to manage what we have. So that's what technical debt is. Anyway, so this is how organization looks like with the proper enterprise architecture team. Yes, EA team, EA role is very critical to the organization, and depending on the size of the organization, there can be multiple EAs in the company, and performing either a centralized or decentralized manner. Um, but it's a critical. And for governance, EA is one who bridges the gap from governance having aspirations to maintain the alignment and having policies and procedures. EA is the one team having this technical skill set to define them more clearly, which can be used by technical teams.